I don't hear anything.
Don't leave until that plane pushes.
I can't hear anything either.
Yeah, I think they might still be on mute. Can you guys hear me?
I
Yes,
can hear you, Ken.
Yeah, I think they may still be on mute. We had an earlier meeting, I think same facility, and it took a little while to get the bugs worked out, but I think they're probably got everything ready to go now.
Okay.
Please do not accept ground transportation offers from any.
Hey, Ken, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, Adam.
All right. Well, everyone, it's 1:31, so I think we'll go ahead and get this meeting started. I want to thank you all for joining online with us virtually, and we have a few in the crowd here today that decided to join us in public. Just to start off, my name is Adam Priest. I'm the project engineer from Coastal Protection Engineering. We also have some representative from Weeks as well. And today's presentation I'm going to go through is provide you some information about the equipment that you see on the beach, the dredge, some background about the project itself, and then go through and we've got some images we're going to show, and then any questions you may have, we'll go through those as well. So without any further ado, I'll get us started. So today is April 20th. This is our public meeting. Here's a quick outline. So I'm going to go over.
Adam, so
Yes.
we can't see anything on the screen online. I could share my screen and go through it I've got the presentation up on my computer if it's an issue, but just let me know.
Okay. No, give us 1 second. I think Kay's working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, just let me know when you can see it.
Okay.
Can you see anything right now at all, Ken?
It's just like a regular window. Like I can see the folks that have microphones up. I can see their pictures, but it's not sharing a screen right now.
Yeah, I think we'll do what we did in the earlier meeting. It wasn't a screen share. They're having a little bit of technical difficulty, and what she did was had a video feed of the presentation.
Well, let me share my screen. Oh, if you can, it looks like it says host disabled participant screen sharing though. I don't know if she's got the ability to undo that.
Yeah, she's working on it.
Hold on just a second.
Thanks everyone for your patience. We'll get it squared away here shortly.
Yeah, we can see that.
You want it? There you got that. Okay. All right. And if anybody has any trouble seeing something, just let me know, and I can I can let you know what it is.
Hold on 1 second, Adam. For those of you that are viewing it on online, if you go up to the upper right hand corner and click on view, if you make sure that the speaker is checked as opposed to gallery, it will show like a full screen view of what they're showing on the screen instead of it being like one square of the screen. So if you click speaker, if somebody else talks, like it says Dina right now, if somebody else talks, it may pop somebody else's up, but as long as Adam is talking, it should show the full screen. Over.
All right. All right. So we got the outline here. Again, just going to go over some background of the project and the dredge. Then we're going to go into an overview of the duct project itself. We're going to talk about the construction progress and the schedule. We'll talk a little bit about the expected equilibration process of the beach and show you some examples of the profiles, and then we'll have some time for the questions. So if we move on, so this is an overview of the entire project. What you can see there on the bottom is the Outer Banks shoreline from Kill Devil Hills all the way up through Duck. The entire project, if you consider all four towns, is approximately a distance of 11.4 miles. The total volume for all four projects is approximately 2.64 million cubic yards. If you look in the right-hand, the upper right-hand corner there, the green polygon, that is the borrow area. You can see that it's offshore of the southern part of Duck and the northern part of Nags Head. That's where the sand's actually coming from. It's about a 15-mile trip from that borrow area to the subline that's in Duck in the project area. You'll also notice that yellow line that's above all of the town's names. That is the BOEM federal waters line. So anything seaward of that or further offshore than that is federal waters, and inside of that line is state waters. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see a small blue polygon. That's identifying the FRF, the Field Research Facility property that's just south of the project area. And then the project area is just north of that. You can see the project limits there. So that's just kind of a general overview of everything for this Dare County Four Towns project. The Magdalene, this is the dredge that is currently working. It's currently on site. This is the dredge that's actually going back and forth from the bar area that you see offshore when they're dumping a load. The length obviously is 363 feet, and this is a larger capacity dredge that Weeks has. It's the 8,500 cubic yards. You're looking at, if you look at that in dump truck loads, right around 710, over 700 dump truck loads. Early in the project, there were two other dredges, the RN Weeks and the BE Lindholm. But right now, the Magdalene is the dredge that's working on site. And as I said, it's the largest one, which is nice because each trip they make is a large volume of sand. So just to kind of show you a picture of this process, when the Magdalene comes to shore, there is a pipeline that extends offshore, and there is a floating pipeline at the end of that. So the Magdalene will pull up and they actually will attach to that floating pipeline. And then once they start pumping, it'll go from there through that pipeline to the subline, which is on the ocean floor, and actually comes up onto the beach. It's kind of far offshore, but we like to kind of show this so you have an idea of how the sand gets from the hopper dredge to the beach. So this is a photo from earlier in the project. I believe this was down in Kill Devil Hills, but just kind of want to talk a little bit about the construction zone. We also call this the active construction zone. So this is the area where the active construction is happening. It's where all the equipment is being staged. It's where the sand is being pumped, and where the actual beach is being built. This construction zone actually moves up or down the beach depending on which way they're going or which way they're building the beach. And at either end of this active construction zone, they'll have boundaries marking it. This is shows you kind of a photo of how, like, say, if your house is in front of that construction zone. We've tried to keep a pedestrian path so that somebody, if the active construction zone is right in front of their house, they can go to the north or south and still access the beach and still remain safe from the active construction zone. Another thing that they do during construction, once the construction zone moves out of your area, there may be a pipeline still there. Part of the project is to build sand ramps over that pipeline so that we don't want anybody crossing that pipeline. These sand ramps are made specifically for accessing the beach. We would ask that anyone that's walking out there to use these sand ramps and not go over the pipeline. It's a safety hazard, and so you'll see these every 400 to 500 feet along the beach. This image also shows you that construction zone boundary. There will be a line or some snow fence there delineating where that active construction zone is. And just want to show you that. So if you see that on the beach, you know what you're looking at. Here's an image of the discharge. So this is what it looks like when they pump the sand out on the beach. So you can't see it in this image, but the pipeline is hooked up to, the dredge is hooked up to the pipeline, and they're actively pumping. And this is the discharge. So the outfall actually has a spreader on it that forces that sand and slurry up and spreads it out. So it actually doesn't, come out directly and dig a hole, and it spreads it out. It causes that sand to kind of flow around. But just wanted to show you guys an up close picture of what that discharge looks like. So to kind of move on to the duck project specifically. So when we talk about a beach nourishment project and, they're building the beach out, this is a depiction that we usually like to show that shows this process of what the beach is, and they build out a construction berm that you'll see out there now in the dune as well. But it's not just sand for the beach, that we also put advanced fill. So we figure out how much sand is needed to protect the infrastructure and the homes along the beach. But then we also know that over the course of time, from when they place it to the next project, there's going to be some natural erosion. And so we factor that in and place that sand that we estimate will be lost over that time period between this nourishment and the next nourishment. So there's really more than just the sand that we're placing there for storm protection, but also the additional sand that's expected to be lost in between the interval between the nourishments. So to go in and talk to the actual duct project itself, the goals of the project here were to reestablish portions of the design fill that eroded. That volume is roughly 192,000. And then the design also called for a uniform distribution of 25 cubic yards per foot along the entire project area. There was also some additional fill factored into the design for anticipated higher erosion between Sound Sea and Snow Geese. And then also there is a taper on the north end, 500-foot taper. And then since the project actually ends right up against the FRF property, we can't put that taper into the FRF property. So that additional sand is actually built into the berm at that south end of the project. There is also FEMA sand from Hurricane Dorian. So this is FEMA funded sand that was lost as a result and documented lost as a result of Hurricane Dorian. And that sand is also accounted for in the design volume for this project. And then just like I spoke about, that anticipated sand that's lost due to erosion over this 5-year nourishment interval. There was also an additional volume of sand added as a result of the delay when the project stopped in November of last year. And then that volume was to account for, sand that was lost during this period of time. So those kind of give you the numbers of the amount of sand, the volume of sand that's going to be placed as a result of this project here right now. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right. So this is an overview of the entire project area. And what you see here on your left-hand side, that's the FRF pier. The FRF property is right there. And the actual equipment that's being used on the beach now actually came onto the beach at Hillcrest Avenue down in Southern Shores. And they had to bring all of that equipment up through the north end of Southern Shores, through the southern end of Duck, and into the project area. North of the FRF, you can see that's where the project, the southern limits of the project are. And then if you move up, there are two light blue bars that talk about where that additional, that added fill density is. The red line there indicates the actual location of the subline that comes on shore. So that's where the sand is being pumped from the dredge. It comes on shore there. And then they're currently pumping to the north right now. But this just kind of gives you an idea of the layout of the project. There's also an access, a construction access for the project at Trinity, Port Trinity. And that's a little bit north of the subline as well. But this is just a general overview of the project limits from Skimmerway all the way down to the northern boundary of the FRF property. So I had a question earlier when I got here, how much is this project going to build the beach out? So on average, the entire beach will be added or be increased, the width will be increased by 147 feet. And that's at the plus 6 foot NAVD contour. So there may be places where it's a little further out and places where it's a little less, but on average along the entire project, 147 feet is the increased width. Now there was a dune component, constructed dune component added to this project. And there are two, I show here the 14 foot. So there's a section that will be built up to 14 feet. And then there's a smaller section that actually goes up to 19 feet. I think the top of the existing dune that are out there, you're looking at around that 19, 20 foot. But just to kind of show you, generally speaking, this is the project design for the berm and the constructed dune. So a lot of people ask, we talk about what a construction berm, like what is a construction berm? So that berm is just the flat beach area that you guys see, that you go out and lay your towels out on and hang out on. That's when we talk about the berm, we're talking about that. So that goes out to the crest before it gets to the slope and then ties in all the way at the dune. Just kind of want to give you guys an idea of what that looks like when we talk about the berm. And then again, on the slope, this project has a 1 on 15 slope. And it's a pretty gradual slope when you go out there and see it. But yeah, at low tide, it actually makes the beach look really wide. So going on to construction progress and schedule. So again, this is a zoomed in version of that overview plan view. You see right there at Diane Street where the subline is coming, that's where they started pumping sand. And from there, once they built up enough material to enough beach to get their equipment in, they started going north. And as of the first thing this morning, they were right here, and I apologize, I don't know the actual street. I know that's Station 96. Paul, you don't happen to know what street that's near, do you? Okay, that's all right. As you can see there too, so they're getting close to the northern end of the project. And once they hit that northern end the next day or so, they plan to break all the pipe back and then start back at Diane Street and then start working south. If you give me a minute here while we're.
Hey, Adam, 96 is like right around the southern part of Oyster Catcher Lane.
Okay, thanks, Ken. So that was as of this morning, the beach. Now sand has been placed further north than that, but the full template of the beach had been built there to Oyster Catcher. And as the day has gone on, I'm sure they've gone further than that now. So they're expecting to finish that northern portion up in the next day or so, and then start working back to the south. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of what that looks like, I'll go through a series of photos here of the past couple of days, and just so you kind of get an idea. It's really nice too. These drone photos we have give you a bird's eye view, so you can see the entire project going on. So this was on April 12th, and this is just at Diane Street looking north. And you can see that subline, which is coming off from the ocean. And then there's a 90 that turns. So that sand is going right there. And then that 90, and they add pipe on from there. At this point, you can see they're discharging, and you've got some bulldozers in the background pushing up sand, preparing the beach for the new fill. Here's the next day. So still kind of building that beach out wide. Still just north of the Diane Street right there from the subline. In this photo too, you can see they added a Y valve, and they've got 2 discharges going. So they've got what we call a landward discharge and a seaward discharge. So the landward discharge is obviously further closer to the dune there. And then we got seaward that's pumping on the seaward portion of the berm, and then in the slope as well. So they do this to be able to alternate putting sand in one place and minimize the amount of pushing they have to do with the bulldozers. So here's another aerial view of the site on the 13th. So, about 2.5 days of pumping at this point. And this is actually just south of Trinity. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, and that might be hard for you guys to see, the lower right-hand corner is the access to Port Trinity. So there's an easement there, and they were able to make a construction access. Now that will be filled in once the project is done, and the full dune right there will be constructed as well. But Weeks is using that as an access for their crew changes, for bringing any equipment or supplies. Not anything big. It won't be bringing or mobilizing any pipe or anything there, but just for daily activities, making sure they can get rid of their trash, or if they need to bring on some equipment to repair a bulldozer or anything, they're using that access. So now here's the 14th and looking south, they're making some more progress. And here you can see that they've graded out a good portion of the berm and are going to be extending the pipeline further to the north. And on the right-hand side there, you can also see the construction of the dune. So pushing some material up there and building that constructed dune to elevation plus 14. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but it's a 10-foot wide crest up there that does vary a little bit, but the design was for a 10-foot crest. So here on the 15th, they made some more progress. Getting down the beach, they passed Port Trinity. And on the 16th here, this is from Carroll Drive looking south. So you can see at the south end of the project there where the subline comes on shore. They've now extended that pipe. They've also added some sand ramps in there. So anybody between the active construction zone and the subline can access the water. And so I thought this was a neat picture. We got this the other day. Flew the drone out, and this just shows the Magdalene and shows an example of that hooked up to the floating pipeline there, and then coming ashore. We weren't close enough to actually see the sand in the hopper there, but this was 2 days ago when the Magdalene came up, and we got a shot of her. So this is 2 days ago from Old Squaw Drive looking north. You can see a couple sand ramps have already been built, and they're getting pretty far north, closer to that northern end of the project. And I think that's it. So yeah, so when I created this presentation, those are the images I had, but obviously they have continued construction and then moved further north in the past 2 days. Does anybody have any questions about any of the photos? Yes, sir. That's a good question. We have a question in the crowd. He asked if they're doing the beach and then doing the dune, or if they're actually building the dune and the beach at the same time. It's the same time. They're working. Actually, you can see in this photo, it's kind of hard to see, but in this area right here, according to the bottom of the screen, you can actually see where they started building the dune. If you can look right up next to the dune, there's like a flat top right there. That's actually the crest of the dune. So as they go along, they're building the dune and the beach simultaneously. So on to the schedule right here. So we've got Duck and the additional fill at Southern Shores, which will be done once Duck is completed. The equipment staging for Duck, that began in early April to get all the equipment to the beach staged in preparation for the beach nourishment to begin. And then, as you know, the pumping, actually, the sand placement began on April 11th. I think it was about 9 p.m. on the 11th is when the actual first load of sand hit the beach. And from today, looking forward, this estimated duration is from today, looking at, probably 20 to 25 days. You'll notice the asterisks, and we tried to make it bold there, that all these are estimated schedules and are subject to change. But I'm told that 20 to 25 days does account for weather. But as you guys know, you're familiar with the project in 2017 and what happened last year. The project, weather events do come up, things happen, and just want to make sure everybody knows that as of right now, this is the best information that we have. They've had some really good weather thus far on the project. They've been able to make some really good time and have really good production. So things have been going really well. Things continue that way, then we could see that. But just want to make sure everybody understands that this is all subject to change. And we try to provide, the best information we have at the time. So I mentioned that the Duck project, once that finishes, there is a plan for Weeks to place some additional fill in Southern Shores. That will be basically moving the equipment from Duck that's being used in Duck to Southern Shores. And we're looking at right now an estimated construction start of mid-May. And then because of the amount of volume they're using, that should only take a couple days, 2 or 3 days to place that material. All right. So now I'm going to go into talk about equilibration. So equilibration is when we place the sand on the beach and then basically Mother Nature takes over. So this is a lot like the schematic or the image that I showed at the beginning of the presentation. This shows the beach that Weeks is constructing now. So just imagine that this is the beach that they're constructing. There is the volume of sand that is designated or designed for the protection. But then there's that advanced fill that I talked about, that estimate of sand that is needed to be placed that, we think or based on the historical erosion rates will be lost between this project and the future one 5 years from now. So we build it out, but Mother Nature takes over from there. So the tides, the winds, the waves, they'll actually pull some of that sand off into the offshore, the deeper portion of the profile. When we talk about profiles or we talk about these projects, a lot of times it's the beach that we see. But when we think of it, the profile actually extends out into the water to what we call the depth of closure. And that can be in 20 feet of water. I think for this area, we're about -24. So that's the entire profile. And that needs to be nourished as well. So some of that sand that we're placing will actually be moved out into that lower portion of the profile as well. So you can see that we have the storm damage reduction sand, so the storm protection sand there as well, and then the advanced fill. So now we have a nourished upper portion of the beach and a nourished lower portion of the beach. That occurs that Mother Nature will move that sand down there. And then over the course of the nourishment interval, this 5 years between projects, that advanced fill will be lost. And then by the time we get back to the actual maintenance, we'll hopefully only have to replace that sand, that advanced fill that was lost, and not, the storm protection will remain during that entire period. And it's only that advanced fill that will be lost. So just wanted to kind of show you that a little bit. And then in 6 to 12 months further down, we actually have some actual profiles. This is from a project in North Carolina. So this is just after the project was constructed. So it shows that, design profile, that constructed beach. And then what we see is over a period of 5 or 6 months here, that sand that was in the constructed beach fill has now migrated offshore into a sandbar and up to a deeper portion of that beach. And why that's important is that the deeper the water is offshore, the shallower the water is offshore, causes the waves to break further away from the beach. So it's dissipating that wave energy and reducing that wave height before it gets to the beach. That's why those sandbars offshore are so important. And then what the project will do, the wind and the waves and the tides will move some of this sand that's being placed now, move it offshore and actually make it shallower further offshore. So the waves break and dissipates that wave energy, and then you have less of that actually impacting the shoreline. There's also another thing that we've had a few questions about. So you may see when you're walking out on the beach, and you may have seen it in the past as well, but there are these dark patches of sand or dark colored sand you'll see on the beach. We've had questions, what is this? What do we know about it? Well, this is actually heavy metals, heavy minerals. There's they're known as magnetite, ilmenite, and actually some purple tinted garnet. But they're all natural. They actually come from the bar area, and they have a little bit heavy. They're a little bit heavier than the actual silica or quartz that's naturally on the beach. So they tend to group together. But over a period of time, they'll actually kind of diffuse, and you won't see that. But we tend to see it more immediately after a project is constructed. But it's perfectly natural to see. It's coming from the offshore bar area, and you have it here. It's just because of the process of placing the sand that it tends to line up there along the shoreline due to the higher density, and you see it. But it's all natural and nothing to worry about. One of my last slides are getting close to the end here. Actually, we had a visitor to the project site yesterday. I don't know if some of you may have heard, but there was a seal spotted on the beach. And during our observations, we saw it. Someone had notified the Marine Mammal Agency, and they had come out and put up signs and notices so everybody would stay away from it. I was told that it was not there this morning, but we'll be keeping an eye out for it if it does return. But just thought that was interesting. Not something we see here regularly in the Carolinas, but it was certainly interesting to see it up close and personal. Just wanted to let you guys know it was out there and keep an eye out. That's about it I have. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask while I'm here? We have some folks from Weeks here as well, and we can answer any questions you might have.
I've got a question and a comment.
Yeah,
Sorry.
got one question here.
I've got a question and a comment. Have there been any issues with sea turtles yet? Okay.
Yeah, so I could talk a little bit and explain the relocation process. So as part of dredging in the bar area, they're required to have a trawler in the bar area that goes ahead and will trawl the area. And if they catch anything, they'll bring it up on the boat, tag it, take some measurements and check the health. And then they'll take it, I believe it's 3 or 4 miles away and release it. So there is always that trawler. It's been on site since they started dredging and will remain doing that same process throughout the project.
Okay, the comment I have is Nest will be starting the regular ATV run in the Nourishment area on the 1st of May. So there'll be the morning run, and I think all the communication protocols have been set up.
Yes, yeah, and we'll definitely have, as we get closer to the 1st, we'll definitely talk about that, as I think we had it going pretty well on the other project, the communication, and, prioritizing areas where they'll be working and, coordinating with Nest to make sure that, they're getting areas clear. They know where they're working. So yeah, I think it worked really well, and I hope to continue that through this part of the project. All right, thank you. Anybody else on the call have a question?
I do.
This is a question for Weeks. Does the Magdalene need to go back to Norfolk to refuel before it goes to Southern Shores?
All right, so everyone, the question was, will Weeks have to refuel before this project is done, before they finish constructing Duck and Southern Shores? And Weeks said that they hope it might not have to happen, but that's kind of have to wait and see. They'll have a better gauge of that 10 days from now and see where they're at. But that's kind of a wait and see. Thank you. I think we had one question there online.
Yeah, I had a question. Your timeline, is that 20 to 25 days from April 11th or from today?
From today.
From today. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions in the chat? Okay. All right, everybody. So I don't have any more to present. Again, my name is Adam Priest. I'm the project engineer. Ken Wilson, who spoke earlier online, he's the project manager. We plan to hold these meetings every 2 weeks, at 1:30, same time, same place, and we'll send that information to the town, and they can provide that information to everybody. So certainly, please, attend and ask any questions you may have. But until then,
Hey, Adam, real quick.
Yeah.
I know Heather from DCM and Dina from BOEM are online. Just want to make sure, give them a chance to see if they had any questions. And were you able to, Heather, I know you had sent us an email earlier about trying to get up there next week and do a site visit. I'm sure Sam will be in touch with you about that. Shouldn't be a problem at all. I think that schedule worked just fine. But I did want to give anybody from the agencies a specific chance. If you guys have any questions, obviously you can reach us anytime. But if anything that came up today, if you had any thoughts.
This is Dina. Thanks for asking. I think just as we get closer to that May 1st sea turtle monitoring trigger, that we'll just be kind of curious to track that as well on top of the relocation trawling. And that's really crazy. You saw a seal on the beach. But yeah, that's wild. It didn't look like super plump, but maybe it's finding something else to eat. So, all right, cool. But that's all from Boehm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dina.
Yes, and this is Heather. I don't have anything else at this time, but we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll be providing daily updates to the town. They have a website that they'll be posting that. So we try to get them updates in the morning about where the active construction zone is and what's going on. So please stay tuned to that. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
What they find in this.
Are you Tom? Tony. Adam Priest. No, actually, we had a meeting this morning with you. There was just let them know, hey, May 1st is only 10 days away. Not all. Start May 1st, so keep your eyes out and continue. It's unusual to see a seal out there.
Hey, I was the one that responded.
Yeah, but I can't believe you see it. They just, those are my, they just get